Things are already underway at Home Team Grill in the Fair. So let's head back inside for more.
Great to have you with us here, live from Home Team Grill and the Fan on ESPN 950. Reading some questions that you sent us using the hashtag SmartShow. And one of the most loyal Ram fans around, Ram Dog Chuck Bailey, sent us. First of all, I'm shocked he sent it on Twitter. I'm proud of him because he didn't have a Twitter account 6 months ago. He said, Coach Smart, you sub out very early in most games. Is that predetermined or something you see in the flow of the game? Good question from Chuck Bailey.
Well, it's usually predetermined, Chuck, that we're going to sub early. Typically we'd like to sub 2 or 3 guys before the first media timeout, which comes somewhere under 16 minutes, depending on when the whistle blows. The other thing that it's a little tricky is that we don't want to sub all our starters out at the same time. Right. We don't want Javonte Reddick, Travion Graham, Breonte Weber, and Rob Brandenburg all on the bench at the same time because obviously that's probably your 4 best players. We might sub a couple guys out 3 minutes into the game, usually try to get Melvin in there first by the 17 mark or 16:30 mark. Usually try to get one of the big guys in before that first media. And then we may come back with Rob or Javonte, a couple of the starters with a couple more subs, and now we're kind of into our subbing routine.
It's interesting, too, because, again, I feel like I bring this up every week, but you're big into advanced statistics, and you have a lot of data on what combos work. You talked last week about 2-man combinations and who really are the most efficient.
Yeah, I'm still learning, about that stuff, and it's something that we keep track of, and we have all this data on 2-man and 3-man and 5-man combinations. And probably the most simple statistic is what is your plus minus. So when that group of 2 guys or that group of 5 guys or 3 guys is in the game together, how many points do you score minus how many points you give up? That's your plus minus. And obviously if you give up more than you score, you're in the negative. It's not surprising. The best 2-man combination on our team in terms of plus minus is Travion Graham and Javonte Reddick. So
makes sense.
That, obviously you don't need statistics. You don't need a calculator to figure that out. You have your best players in the game as much as you can. But the way we play, you got to get guys breaks. You got to get guys, a chance to catch their wind. And I think when your subs are playing well, it really can be demoralizing for the other team if you can put them in and they can play well, your subs, and then you come back with your starters more fresh.
Great stuff. Another question off of Twitter. I like this one. What's the best bulletin board material you've used this year to rev guys up?
Oh, I can't tell you that. We keep that. We keep most of that stuff in house.
But you do look for certain things that
I'll give you an example from a few years ago because I think this got out publicly, or I don't know if Jamie talked about it, but when we played George Mason in the CAA tournament in 2011, okay, so that was the year we went to the Final Four, but remember, we were coming off a tough month of February, and George Mason had won something like 16 games in a row. I mean, they were just on a real tear. Andre Cornelius, one of their players, had put on Twitter a bunch of messages about how they were going to come in and beat us, and they were going to send us home. And so we used that. That was big-time bulletin board material for us. Our guys, at that time were tweeting. Our guys still to this day follow Twitter very closely, so they're into that kind of stuff. And that was, I guess, a sign of disrespect and something that we were able to use as motivation.
For the record, you guys do not tweet. That's something that you've kind of talked to. And you don't tweet because you felt like if the guys can't tweet, I'm not going to be out on Twitter either.
No, and it's not like our guys aren't on social media. I mean, they're on Facebook and certain other forums. But, Twitter's something that, to be honest with you, it can do a lot of good things. But it also, if you don't think before you put something out there, it can put you in a bad position. Obviously, that's an example. Andre Cornelius provided us with motivation. Hopefully we still would have won that game, but it's something that as a coach, it's not what you want. You don't want your information out there. You don't want people talking about injuries. You don't want people talking about how you're playing, and there's a lot of different ramifications to that.
That's just standard PR, control the message too. That's really important. With the bulletin board thing, you can't go to that well too many times, right? I mean, you have to pick your spot with that kind of stuff.
You pick your spots, but if the guys feel like it's authentic and they feel like it's something that people are saying or people, it's players these days are really big on respect. Maybe it's always been the case, but if our guys feel disrespected, then that is as strong a motivation as there is. If they feel like that we need to go take respect from these guys.
Yeah. Good question. Let's get one more. Someone wanted to know about the practice facility that obviously they're trying to finish up the fundraising for. How that can help you prepare, recruit the very best student athletes. I mean, you already are recruiting at a very high level. Can it go up a level with that kind of? I mean, we always talk about facilities, first-class facilities.
Well, I think there's no question that facilities factor into recruiting. We always tell people that the most important element of recruiting, and hopefully for our recruiting, is the people. We want to sell our people at VCU, and we feel like we've got a lot of good people around our program. But at the same time, kids are looking at the arena you play in. They're looking at where you practice. They're looking at the locker room. They're looking at the weight room.
The swoosh.
All that stuff really factors in. And we were talking about 16, 17-year-old kids, and I remember when I was that age how important that stuff was. So, when we do build a new practice facility, I think what that's going to do for us is it's going to really improve, the look when people come and watch our program, when they watch us practice and they come to our office, when they see everything that we have. It's going to improve the perception of our program with recruits. And I think more importantly, Greg, because you never want to put recruiting ahead of your current guys, more importantly, practice facility is going to improve the quality of their student-athlete experience. And I think the student-athlete experience is a great one now. We work really hard, and our administration does as well, to make it a really good experience for our guys and for other student-athletes at VCU. But if we can continue improving that, making that better and better, that's not only going to help us with our current team, but it's going to help guys as they graduate, and it's going to help us with future players.
Yeah, maybe it's not accurate to just say practice facility, because there's so much more than that. This is a support facility for student athletes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost everything we do, from an athletic standpoint, all under one roof. So that's going to be really nice. And, I worked at Florida, and we had a building there that it literally was just ours. And it was men's basketball on one side of the building. It was women's basketball on the other side of the building. And they had their own practice court. We had our own practice court. We shared a weight room. We shared a training room. We each had individual locker rooms, obviously. Coaching staffs had their own locker rooms. And the cool thing was you really didn't leave. I mean, as a coach, you were there. Everything you did was in there. And for the players, once they got done with the academic portion of their day, or at least the class part of their day, they had a lot of the stuff that we did athletically was all in that building. And then afterward, obviously, they could go to tutoring or obviously back to the dorm. But it's going to be really nice to have that.
Great stuff. I have one last question. You're going to have to indulge me on this one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know she's listening. What did you say at halftime at Duquesne because you played so much better? It came from Stephanie. That's my wife. She was there on Saturday. She had a great time. It was my son's first game.
Right.
And she goes, will you please ask Coach a question for me? So she doesn't ask. I don't get all my questions from her. But she wants to know, what did you say?
I don't remember exactly what I said, Greg. To be honest with you, there's a lot of halftimes, man, so a lot of them blend together. But, the Duquesne game, I believe we were down 4 at the half. The last thing you want to do in a game like that is hit the panic button. But I do believe there was, some choice words early in the halftime speech. And then from there, it was like, okay, let's turn the page. This is what we need to do. Here's some adjustments on offense. Here's some adjustments on defense. It's a new half. This is our 20 minutes. Let's go.
I think most people assume that when a team's down, a coach goes in, it's one of those peel the paint kind of speeches. But again, those can wear on guys too, right?
You got to be careful because, you know, a lot of times when you're not playing particularly well, the team is already in a very fragile place. So I'm not saying you should never peel the paint. Some coaches are more peel the paint guys. Some coaches are not. There's a very, very successful coach that I know for a fact at the college level. I know for a fact never, ever raises his voice. Ever.
You mean at halftime or practice?
Ever.
Wow.
Ever. And so there's a lot of different ways to go about it. I would say for myself, I am mostly very, very positive, mostly, you know, trying to communicate to our guys what it is that's going to allow us to be effective. I'm not going to say I never raise my voice. That's one end of the extreme, but hopefully I'm more on the positive side.
Great questions. Again, if you have one for next week, just shoot it to us on Twitter using the hashtag #SmartShow. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll look ahead to LaSalle and to next week's game at home against Fordham. All that coming up. You're listening to the Shaka Smart Radio Show live from Home Team Grill and the Fan on ESPN 950.